Hey, what's going on, everybody? After 8 years, I have finally completed my Roth conversion. So, 8 years ago, I started converting my SEP IRA into a Roth. Now, what's important about a Roth IRA is that after 59 and a half, all the money in there is 100% tax free. 100% tax free. There's no way you can beat that. So I hear people say all the time, or they ask about whether they should do Roth conversions, and I've read up on it plenty of times about whether or not someone should do a Roth conversion. And most people say, well, it depends on what tax bracket you're going to be in when you retire, or things of that particular nature. To me, I didn't see the sense of trading in a known for an unknown, because with a Roth, what is known is that it's going to be zero taxes. What is unknown is what tax bracket you're going to be in. Also, when people say, well, you retire, you're going to be in the lower tax bracket, I got questions about that also. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at why I converted, and I'm also going to show you some examples of some of the conversions that I did and what I did them, and how much I can use projections to benefit me in the future, and why I thought it was a fantastic decision to make. So the first thing I'll look at is Peter Thiel. When I first read about Peter Thiel back in 1999, he grew his Roth IRA from less than $2,000 to over $5 billion in 2019, primarily by using a self-directed account to purchase high-growth private shares of his own company, PayPal, at a fraction of a cent. This strategy allowed him to avoid all taxes on the massive gains, as Roth IRAs enable tax-free growth and withdrawals. So Peter Thiel right now is 58 years old. So that means in a year and a half from now, when he's 59 and a half, if he wants to, he can go and withdraw $100 million from his Roth, and he would pay $0 in taxes. And he did it all legally. So now with the Roth conversion, I'll look at each year you convert, the money that you convert is going to be counted as taxable income. So one of the reasons why I did it initially, let me throw out some numbers here. So let's say, as of today, I'm 51, so that I can't withdraw money from my Roth until the year 2032, which is 8 years from now. Let's say I have $500,000 in my Roth. Just throwing out a number. Let's say I have $500,000 today. And let's say that Roth grows at 15% a year. Back to compounding. I'm always going to talk about compounding because you have to understand compounding. At 15% a year, that means that the money is going to double every 5 years. So that means 10 years it would double twice. So it would double from 500,000 to $1 million, and then $1 million to $2 million. So it'd be $2 million in 10 years. If it was 18% a year, if it grows at 18% a year, that means it would double 3 times in 12 years. So that means it'll double from 500,000 to 1 million, 1 million to 2 million, and 2 million to 4 years in 12 years. In 12 years. So 2 million to 4 million, in 12 years. Now, currently, over the last 9 years, my Roth has compounded at 23.5% per year. So it is actually grown at a rate faster than the calculations that I just explained. So there's a possibility that if I had the $500,000, that in 8 years, it would be even more. Now remember, whenever I withdraw, that's 100% tax free. So if I want to take out $500,000, guess what? $0 in taxes. So what would matter more? That what tax bracket I'm in, or the fact that I have the $0 I have to pay taxes on? And that 23% rate of return also is on the back of 2022, when the Roth was down 33%. That's why I don't focus on 1 year returns. 1 year return really is really not that important to me. It's all about compounding over a long period of time. Anytime your portfolio can go up and down in the short term. So I'm going to look at four different times when I did a Roth transfer, and we're going to see the effect of that Roth transfer as of today and what I anticipate going forward in the future using the ability to back test. So here you can see on 11/10/21, I converted 20 shares of NVIDIA. At that time, it was $300.77. On 1/4/22, I converted 21 shares of Broadcom. And the next year, 17 shares of Broadcom. And then 2024, another 10 shares of Broadcom. And you can look at the tax effect each year on how much they cost to convert over. So on November 21, those 20 shares of NVIDIA, the taxable income, because the money that you convert over is added to your taxable income for that year. So $6,000, and then 2022 is $14,000 for that Broadcom. 2023, $9,000 for those shares of Broadcom, and then 2024, $10,000, almost $11,000 for those shares of Broadcom. The reason why I converted those, I had to convert those fast because of the rate that those companies are growing. And I recognize that the longer I hold them, or the longer I have them, the faster they're going to grow and the more money they're going to grow into. That's why, now this is just four different occasions or 4 different transfers, because I started way back in 2018 when I first started this. So it's been 8 years total. Initially, my goal was to have it done in 5 years, but because of the growth of some of the accounts or some of the money that was in there with some of the businesses that I own, it grew faster, so it took longer for me to convert over. Now I'm pretty much glad I have converted over. Now, if you look at here, it will show you the amount that was converted over. And as of December 31st of last year, the amount that they have grown into. That $6,000 that I converted in 2021 of NVIDIA has now grown to $37,000. In 2022, that $14,000 in Broadcom has grown to $75,000. In 2023, that $9,000 has grown to $59,000. In 2024, that $10,800 has grown to $35,000. So that $40,000 that was converted over those 4-year periods, which increased the taxable income each year by that amount, has now grown to over $207,000. So as of today, just these 4 conversions from a tax-free growth standpoint is $166,000, or it's grown by 408%. Now, as I said, I have another 8 years of growth. I'm not going to touch these companies for the next 8 years. There's nothing I'm going to do. I don't have to trade out. I don't have to move money around. I don't have to rebalance. I don't have to do any of that. I'm going to leave these companies along with the other companies that I own in my Roth, and just let them compound. And then 8 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, as they continue to grow, I will see how much they grow into. Now, if you go back and look at the 8 years, we're going to say, all right, if I go back and I'm trying to say, how much is it going to be worth, or how much is it possible for them to grow into 8 years from now? So what I'll do is I'm going to look back and back test 8 years previously. I'm not going to do the whole amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take $35,000 for NVIDIA and $35,000 for Broadcom. That's $70,000 total, and say, okay, 8 years ago, if I had $70,000 total, and that was the only thing I had in my Roth, and just $70,000 in these 2 companies, $35,000 in each, how much would it be worth today? You see, they would have compounded at 51% a year for the last 8 years. So $70,000 invested January 1st, 2018 will be worth $1.9 million as of September or December 31st, 2025. So the same amount invested in the index fund will be $202,000. So that shows what's possible from that particular standpoint. So now, does that mean that it's going to grow into, now this is less than, does that mean it's going to grow into $2 million, or these 2 companies are going to grow into $2 million 8 years from now? I have no idea, but I can guarantee you that I'm going to own them, 10 years from now, 8 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 15, unless something dramatically happens with these companies that I do not foresee happening, I will continue to own these companies and let them compound. Now, there's also a way that you can use your money for cash flow, or you can use your stocks for cash flow. Nobody ever talks about this because people get to 60 and they sell their stocks, except for the wealthy people. The wealthy people never sell their stocks, but the middle class people get talked into selling their stocks. I'm not selling these companies. These companies, along with the other ones that I own, the Amazons, the Apples, the Google, I'm looking for companies that I can own for the rest of my life. The same way Warren Buffett bought Berkshire Hathaway in his personal portfolio in the 1960s, and he still owns it today, 60, 70 years later, whatever. I plan on owning these for the rest of my life, and they could be handed down to my children. So now I look at it and say, okay, let me go back a little bit further, and let's say how I use these same two companies for cash flow. Let's say it was 2010, and I had the same $70,000. That's $35,000 in NVIDIA, $35,000 in Broadcom. The only difference is this time I am selling 5% of each company per year for cash flow. So 5% per year being sold for cash flow. Now, dating back to 2010, there's a lower rate of return of 37%, but you also add in the element of time because it's time, it's dollars invested, and it's a compound annual growth rate. So $70,000 invested January 1st, 2010, and this is also withdrawing 5% per year, would be worth $10.7 million as of December 31st, 2025, which, and over the same period, the benchmark, which is the S&P 500, if you invested $70,000 and withdrew 5% per year, it would be $249,000, which is one of the reasons why I much prefer owning businesses over the index, especially when you look at really good businesses. So the standpoint of how you look at it really, really matters. Now, if you look at this shows the cash flow. So this is basically the income that you're receiving each year from selling 5%. So 2010, it starts down at 4,000. Then there was a negative year, so it drops to 3,000 and 3,000. And as you can see, over time, the cash flow continues to increase. Now imagine this is in your Roth, or it is in my Roth actually, so I don't have to imagine. So imagine it continues to grow in my Roth like this. Now, these aren't the only two that I would do this. It would be done across the board with the other companies that I own. It could be 3%, it could be 4%, it could be 5%, it could be whatever. Whatever percentage I choose, but whatever percentage I choose, it would be done annually. So a lot of people say, well, if you withdraw 4%, you might be forced to sell when the stock market is down. I'm like, why? You only sell one time per year. So example, let's say at the beginning, let's say at the beginning of this year, I had $2 million and I said, I'm going to sell 5%. That means that 5% would be $100,000. I've already sold for the year. I don't care what the stock market does the rest of the year because I've already sold my 5%. That money can then be transferred to say a high yield savings account, or you can transfer it monthly to your checking account based upon what your monthly needs are. So you can see now in 2022, you can see there's a decline of 35%. This is going to happen. As I showed already, my Roth was down 33% in 2022. But it's still compounded at 25% on average. So it's all about the average per year, and especially if you sell in a set percentage. It's not about a dollar amount because it's based on percentages, and it all depends upon your percentage of growth. If your growth rate supersedes your withdrawal rate, especially by that amount, it's not mathematically possible to ever run out of money. Not only that, your money will continue to grow, which means your cash flow and your income will continue to grow. So I've looked back over a multitude of years, 30 years, and looked at different companies, not companies that aren't even quote unquote or aren't compounding at 25% a year. So some that are, if you look at the standpoint of 30 years and 15, you can own companies for a long, long time And then if you do it by the set percentage and you don't deviate from it, your cash flow is going to continue to grow. Eventually, it will supersede by an extremely large margin the amount you need per year to live off of. And nobody ever talks about this. Nobody does this except for maybe some wealthy people do. But I have this theory, and my theory so far has gotten me to 20% rate of return. And I tend to calculate it, but I will see. I will continue to focus on this. And this is why I convert, because imagine this cash flow continuing to grow tax-free every single year. So I'm getting $400,000, $500,000, $300,000. That's 100% tax-free income in my Roth because I converted 10 years prior or 15 years prior. Can you imagine that? So some people, it might not make sense to convert, but it made all the sense in the world for me to convert. No, I don't like to pay taxes. I didn't want to pay taxes on the money that was converted. But guess what? 10 years from now, for my Roth, 0 taxes. That means that 100% of the money will belong to myself and my family. That's the most important aspect of it. So, research. This is just for informational purposes, and this is why I did it. Not anything that you should do. So go to, look at it, research, and study different things about yourself. Until the next video, I'll talk to you soon. Have a fantastic day. Roth conversion, this is why I did it. And yeah. All right, so stay tuned for the next video, and I will talk to you later. All right, have a great day.